This video is sponsored by Isolate, manufacturers of the mains conditioner and power cords used by a British audiophile. For more information about these and their other products, please click the link in the description. Amplifiers, the beating heart of your system. We may obsess over specs, features and topologies, Class A, Class AB, Class D. But ultimately, what most of us really want is an amplifier with enough class to synergize with our speakers, drive them fabulously, and bring us closer to the music. I hope that gets your juices flowing. I think I did a fairly good job of covering a wide variety of amplifiers in 2024, although self-praise is no praise at all. Some were from the establishment, Hegel, Rega, Sugden, AudioNote, but others from boutique brands that you may not have heard of but I thought were worthy of attention. Heaven 11, Zinamp and Trilogy come to mind. There were valve amps, solid state amps and a hybrid amplifier, so plenty to cover in this end of year roundup. Let's get started. In 2023 I reviewed a pencil case size Class D amplifier from Fosi Audio that retailed for £100, £130 with the upgraded 48 volt 5 amp power supply, a simple stripped back unit with just one input boasting premium quality parts inside. The Fosi Audio V3 is ideal for a desktop or small room scenario where space is a consideration. I was so impressed with it that it won my best amplifier of 2023 in the sub £1,000 category, so naturally I was intrigued when Fosi Audio launched the monoblock version. But here's the thing, I don't review power amplifiers on their own. In my experience, the synergy between preamplifier and power amplifier is both crucial and elusive. I waited until Fosi Audio introduced their first DAC with preamp functionality before requesting review samples. The Fosi Audio ZD3 retails for £180, a smart looking device in a solid metal jacket with a clean circular porthole display. You get a lot for your money, a DAC based on a top-tier ESS Sabre 9039 Q2M chip, digital outputs on optical, coaxial, USB and HDMI ARC. How rare is that at this price? Also single-ended and balanced XLR outputs. Those balanced outputs can be connected directly to the balanced inputs on the V3 monoblocks that retail for £150 each. You can use single-ended connections, but the sound is cleaner through XLR. The ZD3 DAC is a really good buy, but I'm less convinced about the V3 monoblocks. They sound cleaner and have better drive than a single V3 amp, but they also sound more sterile. I prefer the warmer presentation of the stereo V3 amp, and that's what I'd stick with. By the time you've added the cost of cables between the ZD3 and V3 monos, you're looking at least £500. The spaghetti of wires seems unnecessary when there's some great sounding integrated amps with built-in DACs for that kind of money. Like the Mission 778X that I reviewed in the summer, the £549 778X is a half rack width unit with an internal DAC based on an old ESS 9018 K2M chip, proving that sound quality is more about implementation rather than chasing the latest chipset. The amplifier section is a level above what the Fosi V3 monoblocks can deliver in terms of clarity, dynamics and refinement. Tonally, the 778X is a little bit on the cool analytical side, but not excessively. And the DAC section is ideally suited to the amplifier. You won't need an external DAC. That'll just be throwing your money away. The only reason it didn't get my top outstanding award is because competition is fierce in this market segment, not in any small regard from its own IAG stablemate. The Audiolab 6000A at £100 more offers even better fidelity and greater power. Around the same time of year as I reviewed the Mission 778X, in came another small amplifier that really took me by surprise. The Rega IO is bigger than the Fosi Audio V3, but considerably smaller than the Mission 778X, about the size of a cigar case. I almost forgot to mention it's £420 and hand-built at Rega's facility in the UK. That's quite something, isn't it, for an amplifier at this price to be hand-built in the UK. It's a testament to Rega's values and their commitment to providing value for money, but it's the clarity and impeccable sense of timing of the Rega IO that really came as a surprise to me. You hear much deeper into recordings than you have any right to from an amplifier at this price. Transients, textures to notes, reverbs and decays. The IO only produces 30 watts per channel into an 8-ohm load with a robust but modestly sized power supply, which means speaker pairing is critical if you want to hear the nuanced information and excellent spatial qualities that make the baby Rega amp special. So you'll need very resolving speakers that present a benign load, not just in sensitivity but in impedance swings. The £799 Monoblocks Audio Silver 100 7Gs were an excellent dance partner, but tonally on the cool side. That's mainly down to the speakers, but there's a little bit of forwardness in the mid-range of the Rega IO as well. That and the limited power are my only criticisms though. My advice is when it comes to speaker pairings, don't be fooled by the price of this amplifier and skimp. Set aside a budget of up to about £1,000 and make sure you get a demo. Get it wrong and it will sound muddy, but get it right, you'll just marvel at what this little amp delivers. The Rega IO is the best amplifier of 2024, below £1,000. I reviewed a lot of amplifiers in this price category in 2024, so my strategy here is to provide you with a quick synopsis of each product to give you an inkling of what they sound like, then select the winner and explain my reasons why. But if you want more information, the link to my full reviews is in the description. Having been so impressed with the Willsenton R8, I was keen to see what this brand could deliver with the R300 Plus model. At just under $1,100 US plus shipping and taxes, you get a beautifully constructed aluminium chassis in automotive grade paintwork finishes. The sound is pretty much what I'd expect from a 300B amplifier. Good detail, large scale and a very rich tonal balance. But I'm also aware that since my review, Skunky Design have done a thorough engineering breakdown of this model, which highlighted some issues. Some of them seem acceptable given the price of this amplifier, for example asymmetrical clipping and some anomalies in the square wave performance, which is most likely down to limitations in the output transformers. Another issue may have been particular to her sample. There was something wrong with one of the bias pots that led to higher distortion on one of the channels. But Skunky also discovered that the 300B tubes run hot. These are not cheap tubes to replace. The design also relies on negative feedback. Ideally in a 300B amplifier you don't want any negative feedback because 300B tubes are prized for their linearity. How much negative feedback Willsenton have applied is unclear, but they clearly felt the need to apply some to lower distortion and improve bandwidth. These are issues that you need to be aware of if you're interested in the Willsenton 300B+. In 2024, I was on a mission to find purist amplifier solutions for sensible money. Right at the top of my list to audition was the £1,200 NVA AP20LE, a straightforward 35 watt per channel Class AB amplifier in an acrylic case. The non-metallic case is only part of a purist, no compromising design ethos, which shows in the performance. The level of detail retrieval and precise stereo imaging is beyond what I've heard from any other amplifier below £2,000. The AP20LE is also very natural sounding. That includes my two reference amplifiers in this price range, the Exposure 2510 and the Willsenton R8, which I run with upgraded tubes from Tunxall and PS Vane. But just like the Rega IO in the category below, the AP20LE requires very resolving speakers that are easy to drive for the basslines to be kept in check. The £1,500 Dali Menuetto SEs are ideally suited to this task. Another purist solution for similar outlay is the £1,350 Dayens Menuetto Custom, a conventional 50 watt per channel Class AB amplifier in a half-width chassis. The custom version of this amp has upgraded Mundorf capacitors, some higher spec resistors, an Alps Blue Velvet volume control and WBT connectors. The Menuetto Custom doesn't gather as much information as the MV8 amps, but thanks to more power, it's a lot more flexible when it comes to speaker pairings. It's a neutral to sweet sounding no-nonsense amplifier for the money. But if it's sweetness you're after, then it's hard to ignore tube amplifiers in this price range. The AudioNo iZero, retailing for £2,155, runs 4 ECL82 dual pentode tubes in Class AB push-pull configuration. It features Rubicon capacitors and a custom transformer manufactured in-house. The body in the bass, richness in the mids is perfectly balanced by enough presence on top. The iZero is one of the most musically engaging amplifiers I've heard, but those 4 little tubes only produce 8 watts per channel. That's more useful than you might think, but this is another amplifier where you need to get the speaker pairing right. My darling Menuetto SEs came to the rescue again. Okay, enough of the low-powered stuff. Time for something with a lot more guts. The Zinamp SSD retails for £1,999 in standard form and produces a healthy 120 watts per channel into 8 ohms. Some of the chassis work may look like it's assembled from a kit, but make no mistake, this is a serious amp, a refinement on the quad 405 current dumping principle from the 1960s, designed to deliver more current when it's needed most. The Zinamp SSD purposefully has a warm liquid mid-range by adding second harmonic distortion, the idea being to give a presentation like a Class A amplifier. I think it overcooks it a little bit. A lot of those low-powered Class A amplifiers also have soft bass. This amplifier doesn't need to. By pulling those second harmonics back a little bit, bass transients would be a little bit cleaner. This amplifier would be a bit better for it. It's still an interesting amplifier though. Talking about reviving classic designs from the past, IG have reimagined another quad design from the 1960s, one of the most important amplifiers in the chronology of hi-fi, the Quad 33 preamp and 303 power amp. The new ones retail for £1,199 a piece. The original 33 303s were one of the first transistor-based amplifiers not to sound like nails running down a chalkboard. Nostalgia is a funny thing though. Like Baz Luhrmann, I think that sometimes it means recycling things from the past for a little bit more than what they're worth. Don't misunderstand, these are very good amps, but ultimate clarity is forsaken to voice a stereotypically vintage warm sound. Things move on in 60 odd years. If the designers weren't looking so much to the past, these amps may have been even better. Modern amplifier topologies have their limitations too. Class D amplifiers are efficient with high damping factors. That normally translates into lots of power and great bass control, but they can strip out harmonics, robbing music of its soul, a bit like a necromancer in J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Not the Heaven 11 Billie Mk2 amplifier that I reviewed in the spring. 2 ECC 99 dual triode tubes in the preamplifier stage inject harmonics, married to an ICE Power 200 AS2 Class D power module, capable of producing 120 watts per channel into 8 ohms. There are nice design touches offered by this boutique Canadian brand, such as the custom knobs in olive wood, panda marble and other finishes. The Billie Mk2 retails for circa £1,600 plus shipping and taxes. For that price it comes with a well integrated DAC designed around the ESS 9018 K2M chip, but inputs are limited to coaxial and optical. It really is the best of both worlds. The grip and control produced in the bass by the ICE Class D module is exceptional, and it superbly combines with the Class A tube stage to produce a mid-range that has body and warmth. Okay, you don't have quite as natural timbre reproduction as I get from my Exposure 2510 or Willsenton R8, but the Billie amplifier sounds cleaner. It also has a soundstage that's just as wide and as deep, but with more precise stereo imaging. The Billie Mk2 is about to be replaced with the Mark III, shifting to a modular design with improved switching relays for channel separation and signal integrity. There are options for a Hypex NC252MP Class D power module and 2 DAC options based on newer ESS 9039 Q2M chips in single or dual chip configuration. I can't give the award to the Mark III, but it bodes well, doesn't it? The Heaven 11 Billie Mk2 is the best amplifier of 2024 between £1,000 and £3,000. Is the apocalypse looming? YouTube reviewers are turning into hi-fi manufacturers. The traditional press might think so, but I think it's possible to straddle both sides of the fence as long as the lines of demarcation remain separate and clear between reviewer and hi-fi manufacturer. The hi-fi viewing public are not naive, and platforms like this are built on a foundation of trust. Thomas Stan seems to be walking that tightrope fairly successfully. His launch product, the Galion TS120, was a brave choice. The SE version that I reviewed comes with upgraded capacitors and retails directly on his website for $4,495 US. Brave, you say? Why? Well, it's about 3 times the price of the most successful tube amplifier in recent years, the Willsenton R8, and that's allowing for a decent set of tubes across all 3 stages. Does the Galion TS120 sound significantly better than the R8? No, not in Class AB mode or the high feedback setting, but in Class A mode and the low feedback setting, yes. There's more detail and better spatial presentation. It makes the other settings redundant in my book, but I'm sure there's plenty of Galion customers out there that appreciate the extra flexibility. In the spring, I was able to review a product that I knew had been in development for about 3 years. UK-based high-end audio outfit Trilogy brought the entry price of their brand crashing down with the £5,900 Trilogy 921 integrated amplifier. A 75 watt per channel Class AB amplifier from one of the most respected designers in the industry, it unusually deploys a single gain stage, linear enough to only require 10 dB of shunt feedback to achieve bandwidth and distortion parameters. The result is an amplifier that's uber detailed with an excellent sense of timing. It sounds very much like an Accuphase E280 but with better bass control. Ideally, I'd still like a little bit more authority in the low end and richness in the mid-range, but I guess that's why its 925 big brother exists at almost 3 times the price. My last review of 2024 was from another one of my favourite hi-fi brands. Due to COVID-induced supply chain problems, back orders piling up and the owner tragically passing away, it's been 4 years since I was able to get a Sugden amplifier in for a review. So I wasn't going to mess around. I requested their top-of-the-range Masterclass IA4 integrated, a 33 watt per channel pure Class A single-ended beast that retails for £6,670, available with front plates in 13 custom colour finishes. The detail, but in particular the tonal shading, is exquisite with so much harmonic saturation. There's a richness in the lower mid-range, which is beautifully balanced by the energy in the upper mid-range, and the soundstage is big and wonderfully layered. It isn't the airiest amplifier I've heard on top. There's a little bit of bloat in the bass, and the mid-range transients are softened. Some of you are going to care about that stuff, others couldn't give a monkey's. They'll be too busy enjoying what the Masterclass IA4 does well. I've come to look upon Hegel amplifiers the same way I regard Porsche cars. They may not stir the soul like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, but you have to admire how well they're engineered and that they do so many things so well. The more time you spend with them, the deeper that appreciation grows. Such was the case for me with the new Hegel H400 that I reviewed in August 2024. The £5,995 amp is the Norwegian equivalent of a Swiss Army knife. 250 watts per channel and a 4000 damping factor is enough to harness any speaker I can think of, and the soundstage is vast, equal to the best tube amplifiers I've encountered, but perhaps this amplifier is a little bit more focused when it comes to the localization of performers. The amount of detail on offer, as far as I can recall, has only been bettered by the NVA and more amps that I've reviewed. It's not as timbrally as insightful as the very best amplifiers I've heard, but the H400 is a very neutral sounding amplifier, and overall I'd say it's the most accomplished integrated amplifier I've reviewed to date, and that's why the best amplifier of 2024 above £3,000 is the Hegel H400. Let me know what you think about the products that I've covered in this video in the comment section. Also, if there's any products that you feel that I've missed out that you'd like to see me review in 2025, let me know about those as well. I'm sure you know what to do by now if you want to support me here and what I do. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Check me out on Patreon. There's a couple of tiers you can access there if you think I can help you on your audiophile journey. Also check out the ABA Club on Patreon, which has some great ways to interact with me and fellow patrons. But for today, for now, British Audiophile, signing off.